Dominica. Dominica is often called the nature island, but for a growing number of global citizens, it is becoming something much more significant. A blueprint for a long, healthy, and strategically secure life. In this 4K immersive travel documentary, we are going beyond the scenery. We are exploring Dominica as a permanent life design resource. The architecture reflects this isolation. Local timber and volcanic stone are used to craft elevated designs to withstand heavy tropical rainfall. Unlike the manicured, white sand aesthetics found elsewhere, the environment is defined by geothermal heat and deep-sea trenches where sperm whales reside year-round. This is a culture built on the bush medicine of the mountains and a French Creole heritage that endured through sheer geographic isolation.
Stay with us until the end for the country's most photographed natural landmark. It is a dual force of nature that perfectly encapsulates the raw power of this wild sanctuary. The land doesn't just host life, it dictates how life is lived. Welcome to Dominica.
Dominica, a complete livability masterclass. To help you decide if this island is your next chapter, this film is structured as a complete livability masterclass. We will provide a deep dive breakdown of every major region, from the urban pulse of Roseau to the eco-seclusion of the north, analyzing them through the lens of relocation considerations and wellness and longevity. We will cover the hard data on citizenship by investment, healthcare infrastructure, and the specific blue zone habits that allowed this population to defy the aging process. Volcanic peaks rise so vertically here that the landscape functioned as a natural fortress, allowing the Kalinago people to resist colonial forces for centuries longer than their neighbors. It remains the only territory in the region where an indigenous population maintains a significant legally recognized land base. This ruggedness prevented the typical conversion of the interior into sugar plantations, preserving a prehistoric density of rainforest and 365 mountain-fed rivers. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. Long-term happiness in a remote paradise depends on your ability to remain connected to your global interests. We call this the Laptop Lifeline. We'll discuss this several times throughout this travel documentary. There is a Centenarian secret about living in Dominica. Dominica is home to one of the highest concentrations of centenarians in the world, a phenomenon that is less about luck and more about the island's uncompromising geography. Here, longevity is fueled by the forced fitness of a vertical landscape. Every daily task requires functional movement against gravity. When you combine this consistent physical engagement with the mineral-rich output of volcanic soil and water filtered through prehistoric rock, you aren't just living on the land. You are being biologically fortified by it. For the relocation researcher, this represents a fundamental shift, moving from a lifestyle where health is a chore to be managed to one where the environment itself performs the heavy lifting of maintenance. Dominica likely further contributes to longevity because the biological reset and stress decompression factor that is seemingly built into the culture itself. For the high-achieving professional, the slow travel pace of Dominica isn't merely a vacation aesthetic. It is a profound neurological reset. In many fast-paced cities, the nervous system often exists in a state of chronic sympathetic overdrive. Transitioning to the rhythmic, intentional pace of the nature island allows for a sustained stress decompression that resets the parasympathetic nervous system. This isn't about doing less. It's about doing things with a level of presence that modern urban life has effectively taxed out of existence. Here, the absence of artificial urgency becomes the primary tool for cognitive recovery and long-term mental clarity. And on the island, you find you may eat better and enjoy more nutritionally dense food than you have ever had the opportunity to encounter. In many parts of the world, organic and farm-to-table are marketed as luxury trends with a matching premium price. But in Dominica, they are the baseline standard of living. Known as the Garden of the Caribbean, the island's volcanic fertility ensures that non-processed, nutrient-dense food isn't just available, it is unavoidable. For a long-term resident, your food budget is spent in the local markets of Roseau or the small-scale cooperatives of the interior. You are trading the convenience of processed global supply chains for a direct, daily connection to a food source that is as clean and potent as it was a century ago. Speaking of financial considerations, here's an insider's tip for relocation success. Importantly, you have to know where and how to access your money at all times. Financial livability in Dominica requires a strategic firewall. Navigating the local banking system can be a lesson in bureaucratic friction for the uninitiated. The standard recommendation for high net worth residents is a two-bank strategy, maintaining a primary international account for your global assets while establishing a local account in Eastern Caribbean dollars, XCD, for daily operations. For example, continue to maintain a dedicated US-based expat account, like Charles Schwab, for your global income, and open a local account in Roseau for your Eastern Caribbean dollar, XCD, expenses. This protects you from having your primary accounts frozen due to suspicious foreign IP activity while ensuring you can pay local utilities with ease. Since the Dominican currency is pegged to the US dollar at a fixed rate of 2.7 to 1, your local spending power is stable, but the process of onboarding as a foreigner requires a heavy paper trail of references and source of wealth documentation. Mastering this early ensures that the simple act of paying a utility bill doesn't become a day-long administrative odyssey. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. Perhaps the greatest threat to long-term happiness in any relocation isn't financial, it's emotional. We call it the Tuesday morning test. Once the novelty of the 365 rivers wears off, what will you do at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday? Dominica is not a high-octane entertainment hub. It is a community-driven sanctuary. Long-term satisfaction here is found in the extra places beyond your home, the social spaces, the local coffee shops in Roseau, the hiking groups on the Waitukubuli Trail, or the agricultural cooperatives in Castle Bruce. To avoid the expat bubble and the isolation that comes with it, one must be prepared to integrate into the local culture of resilience. Happiness in Dominica isn't found in escaping the world, but in actively participating in a smaller, more intentional one. Let's begin our journey in the capital. Roseau. Roseau is Dominica's capital and largest city, which makes it seem larger than it is. It's Dominica's urbanization on a small scale. Its compact nature places all the creature comforts you might expect within easy reach without sacrificing the capital city's energy and amenities, making it comfortable to spend the day or stay and explore. While Dominica's fiber optic network is robust in urban centers like Roseau, the island's vertical terrain and frequent geothermal activity mean that power redundancy is a requirement, not a luxury. The visionary planner doesn't just look for a home with a view, they look for a home with radical engineering, specifically a dual power setup involving solar or high-end battery backups to bridge the gap during the island's transition to its 100% geothermal grid. True security here means knowing that your business continuity isn't at the mercy of the next tropical storm. The name of the city, Roseau, comes from what early French settlers saw. River reeds, roseau in French, growing thick along the banks, so they called the settlement Roseau. That French start, and later British rule, still shows in the city's mix of French Creole and British colonial-era buildings, as well as newer rebuilds. Roseau is the island's main hub for everyday culture, so it's a good place to eat well, browse small shops, and pick up the local vibe without trying too hard. Roseau is also the hub for the island's fiber optic rollout, ensuring that even in this remote paradise, your connection to global markets remains uninterrupted. You can keep your days active with walks, water time, and nearby outdoor plans, then come back and keep the night simple. This place has changed hands and had to restart more than once. It was burned in 1805 as France and Britain were still fighting over Dominica, and French forces made a final assault on the island that set the capital on fire before withdrawing. It later suffered near total destruction in 1979 when Hurricane David hit Dominica, causing the greatest damage around Roseau. And while Roseau maintains its colonial charm, even following its rebuilding for the permanent resident, it also serves as the island's primary infrastructure anchor. This is where you'll find the new Dominica-China Friendship Hospital, the most advanced medical facility on the island, a critical consideration for those who are sports and activity-minded all the way up to those planning on spending their later years here. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. While the recent investments in the Dominica-China Friendship Hospital and the new Marigot facility represent a leap forward for the island, the reality for those with complex medical needs is one of stabilization and evacuation. For a permanent resident, the must-have is comprehensive international health insurance that specifically includes medical evacuation coverage. In a true emergency, your safety depends on the ability to be airlifted to Martinique, Barbados, or even Miami within hours. Understanding this infrastructure limitation isn't about fear. It's about the Plan B security that allows you to truly relax into the island's longevity-focused lifestyle. For the visionary planner, this isn't a reason for fear. It's a required administrative layer for peace of mind. Give Roseau more than a quick look. Make it your base for exploring the island's paradise and learning about its history. Leave with a clearer feel for Dominica's mix of influences and the sense you could come back and enjoy it even with very little effort. Here in Roseau, less is truly more. Portsmouth and Cabrits. Now let's talk about Portsmouth and Cabrits. These are vital areas for your relocation consideration. Portsmouth isn't just a big village. It is the epicenter of Dominica's eco-luxury development. Areas like Picard and Cabrits are currently home to government-approved real estate projects that offer a path to citizenship. For a high net worth researcher, this region represents a unique intersection. A Plan B sanctuary that offers both sovereign security and a world-class wellness environment. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. Before you leave your home country, you must build what we call a paper shield. Every legal document, from birth certificates to FBI background checks, must have a physical apostille stamp. Be warned, these often have a 90-day shelf life. If your residency appointment in Roseau is delayed, your paperwork could expire, forcing a total restart. Start your document chain at least 6 months before your move. Portsmouth is Dominica's second town, which is a polite way of saying it's a town that feels more like a big village, and that's the whole appeal. It's built around water and green space, so your default day plan is simple. Get outside, get on the water, then do it again tomorrow. Boat rides are available in Portsmouth, and the town's relaxed energy is evident throughout. Rowboats lazily cruise up the beautiful Indian River, giving views of local plants, wildlife, and some iconic filming locations from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. When you want to move your legs, the area is set up for short hikes through old military grounds. In 1802, a successful revolt by enslaved soldiers at a British garrison broke out. One of the moments that still shapes how Portsmouth talks about freedom and power. Portsmouth also has real depth in its background. It's one of the places where you can see how Dominica moved from Kalinago roots through French and English control into a modern community that still leans hard on nature. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. While Dominica's fiber optic network is robust in urban centers like Roseau, the island's vertical terrain and frequent geothermal activity mean that power is a requirement, not a luxury. When planning your relocation, don't just look for a home with a view. Look for a home with a dual power setup involving solar or high-end battery backups to bridge the gap during the island's transition to its 100% geothermal grid. Again, we remind you that true security here means knowing that your laptop's personal and business continuity isn't at the mercy of the next tropical storm. Get out, have fun, rinse, and repeat. Portsmouth sends people away with a lighter schedule and a lighter heart, the kind of place that quiets your mind and leaves you in a better mood than you arrived. Cabrits National Park is where Dominica lets you do two things at once. Get outside in a protected coastal landscape and walk straight into the island's colonial-era defense system. Stone fortifications built by the British to control the bay, now left open for you to explore at your own pace. The name itself is a wink from the past. Cabrits comes from the French word for goat, and the headland got its name after goats were introduced there long ago. Follow well-marked paths that climb and loop, stopping often to bathe visitors in fresh ocean breezes and stunning Caribbean views. You'll move between thick greenery, open headland, and stone structures built for defense, all close enough together that the place never feels like a long slog. Cabrits is known for its contrast. Lush emerald forest and sea on one side, and the peninsula's old gun emplacements and fort walls on the other. The gun fort was built to control access to Prince Rupert Bay. The garrison was intended to spot ships early and cover the water with overlapping fire if an enemy fleet approached. The park appeals to a variety of interests: slow walkers, hikers, history buffs, and anyone who just needs a big outdoor reset. Cabrits is an easy walk with a long after effect. the kind that can empty your mind from the tedium of mainland life or fill it with the memories of empires past. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. While the beauty of the Cabrits is undeniable, for the high net worth researcher, Portsmouth represents a significant financial security opportunity. Dominica offers one of the world's most established citizenship by investment (CBI) programs. To secure a Plan B passport and full residency, the hard data is clear. An individual contribution of $100,000 to the Economic Diversification Fund, or a minimum real estate investment of $200,000 in a government-approved project, many of which are situated right here in the Portsmouth and Picard corridors. This isn't just a travel choice. It is a wealth protection strategy. A Dominican passport currently grants visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to over 140 countries, providing a paper shield of global mobility that is essential for the modern visionary planner. Marigot. Marigot is a major village by Dominica standards, on the northeast coast, with green hills behind it, and just enough to keep your days full without feeling overly scheduled. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. When considering this area, the true test of your access to digital continuity is passed here with some of the island's most consistent fiber optic uptime, making it a viable laptop lifeline for those managing global assets while overlooking the Atlantic. The name is French, Marigot, a word tied to low, wet ground where water collects. One of those place names that stuck across the Caribbean wherever the landscape fit. Marigot began as a colonial settlement anchored by the John Weir plantation, then spread outward into separate pockets that grew into a stitched-together village rather than a single main road. It's now the largest settlement in St. Andrew Parish, stretching from Melville Hall to Pagua Bay. Today, it functions as the Northeast's main anchor and is known for a strong coastal identity. Fishing culture, open Atlantic water, and quick access to outdoor days. For the relocation researcher, Marigot is more than a coastal village. It is a strategic infrastructure hub. This region is the home of Douglas Charles Airport, currently the primary gateway for international arrivals. Furthermore, the development of the new international airport nearby is a radical engineering milestone that will fundamentally alter property values and accessibility in the Northeast. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. For those managing global business or assets, the access to the world and management of your digital needs is about more than just having a connection. It's about redundancy of access systems. While fiber is expanding, the vertical terrain makes satellite options like Starlink a non-negotiable backup. Never rely on a single source of connectivity if your income depends on a laptop lifeline. But since ultimately, you are not moving here just to be in a different place, you are moving here to enjoy a wonderful life in this remarkable island paradise, one must start with the sea, swimming, snorkeling, or simply observing. Then shift to inland breaks for its short scenic walks and lookout stops. Marigot's buildings are shaped by island reality, heat, heavy rain, and storm seasons. Traditional homes in Dominica often use timber and practical features that improved airflow and shade, while newer builds are tougher and more enclosed, prioritizing durability after major hurricanes. The result feels easy to live in, simple, solid, and made for the climate. Marigot feels like a reset button. Leave with a small itch to keep exploring Dominica's Northeast, enough to make next time feel like a plan, not a maybe. Morne Diablotin National Park. Clouds generally stay caught in the canopy of Morne Diablotin National Park. a 4,747-foot volcanic massif that anchors the northern skyline. Its nickname, the Devil's Mountain, comes from the nocturnal cries of the Diablotin bird, a species once thought extinct that found sanctuary in these high-altitude burrows. The terrain transitions from deep primary rainforest to stunted elfin woodland where gnarled trees grow sideways under the weight of constant mist. This vertical wilderness provided a strategic refuge for Maroons, the local indigenous people who utilized the steep ridges to maintain their independence from colonial forces. Hiking here involves navigating a network of mountain-fed streams and ancient root systems. You can trek to the highest peak in the Eastern Caribbean or quietly observe the imperial Amazon parrot, a bird found only within these borders. Because the park focuses on preservation over commercial development, you get a raw, solitary experience. The atmosphere feels heavy and ancient. It acts like a massive water tower for the island, feeding rivers that sustain the valleys below. Standing on the summit feels less like a viewpoint and more like an achievement. You leave with a deep respect for the sheer defiance of a forest that refuses to be tamed. Barracuda. Atlantic waves collide with the southern coast at Barracuda, a settlement the Kalinago called the Place of Large Crabs. Known today as the South City, this coastal community occupies a volcanic bowl carved by ancient ash flows and andesite ridges. The geography creates a natural amphitheater for sound. Deep mountain ravines amplify the local calypso music, a genre born here that changed the Caribbean's sonic landscape. You can explore the ruins of stone estates that now function as heritage parks, or follow the mountain-fed springs where aromatic bay trees are harvested to produce essential oils. Barracuda functions as a cultural powerhouse. It is the site where the 1844 resistance movements began, giving the area a reputation for fierce independence. This isn't a place of quiet observation. The energy is grounded in the active preservation of Creole dance and coal pot cooking traditions. Much of Barracuda's housing and infrastructure is newer and built to more modern, resilient standards. However, it is a more rural setting than Roseau. So while fiber optic internet is expanding across Dominica, always verify the specific Laptop Lifeline capability of a property in Barracuda before committing, as mountainous terrain can still create pockets of variable signal. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. Barracuda is energetic and social. A relocator here should expect to be part of a close-knit environment where local festivals and community gatherings are the primary social anchors. Integration here is about participation. You'll want to show up to local events and engage with the community's history. This is an area where being a good neighbor carries significant social capital and is the fastest way to transition from a visitor to a respected resident. For those seeking a Garden of the Caribbean lifestyle, Barracuda offers unparalleled access to fresh, volcanic soil-grown produce. The cost of living here for food and local goods is often lower than in the capital. Use the local bounty to your advantage. Establishing relationships with local farmers in the Grand Bay area can significantly reduce your monthly expenses while providing the high-nutrient organic diet that defines the island's longevity-focused lifestyle. While Barracuda feels secluded and authentic, it is only a 20 to 30-minute drive from the amenities of Roseau. This makes it a strategic, best-of-both-worlds choice. You can live in a culturally rich, quiet village while maintaining easy access to the capital's hospitals, banks, and administrative services. Barracuda provides a different coastal experience than the calm Caribbean west side. It is rugged and scenic, with proximity to the Soufriere Scots Head Marine Reserve, a world-class diving and snorkeling destination. The air carries a mix of salt and mountain mist. It feels deliberate. You aren't just visiting a village. You are entering a collective memory, held together by the sound of the ocean and the heat of the volcanic soil. Before moving permanently, spend a few ordinary days in the village. Visit the local shops, walk the paths, and gauge your comfort with the quiet authority of the southern coast. If you value a lifestyle where your identity is tied to the land and the people around you, Berequa is one of the most rewarding places on the island to call home. Berequa is the kind of town that pulls you in and makes you feel one with it. Soufriere. Atlantic waves meet the Caribbean Sea at the base of a submerged volcanic crater in Soufriere. This fishing village occupies a deep, mountain-fringed valley where geothermal heat naturally warms the coastal waters. The name reflects this energy, derived from the French word for sulfur, marking the area's identity as a landscape that literally breathes. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. If you are seeking the ultimate in blue zone living, then pay attention to Soufriere in Dominica. Take, for example, the geothermal living. The region is home to numerous hot springs and mineral baths. Regular access to these sulfur-rich waters is often cited by locals as a key factor in their skin health and physical mobility into their 80s and 90s. Also, the aspects, the blue zone diet, as the volcanic soil here is exceptionally fertile. For someone planning a Garden of the Caribbean lifestyle, the area around Soufriere provides a nutrient density in homegrown produce that is difficult to replicate elsewhere. And, if you are prioritizing longevity, look for properties that have existing galette or stone-walled gardens. These structures help manage the heat and moisture of the region, creating a microclimate that allows for year-round organic farming right outside your door. Traditional Creole architecture defines the village, featuring dark volcanic stone and timber homes built with jalousie shutters to manage the tropical heat. You can explore the ruins of an 18th century lime oil factory or bathe in natural hot springs that have functioned as communal healing sites for generations. Divers frequent the area for the sheer submarine drop-offs of the marine reserve, where volcanic vents create a fizzing effect on the seafloor. Because the village sits within a protected marine zone, the environment remains remarkably intact compared to more developed Caribbean hubs. The pace is set by the morning return of fishing boats rather than commercial schedules. Because the seafloor drops off precipitously here, which is referred to as a submerged crater, world-class diving and whale watching are minutes from the shore. This makes it a prime location for relocators who want an active, water-based retirement. For many, a move to the Caribbean is only complete if the entire family is present, including those with 4 legs. However, relocating a pet to Dominica is an exercise in administrative patience. It is not as simple as a flight and a fee. To avoid a mandatory quarantine, you must navigate a strict timeline. A microchip, followed by a rabies vaccination, and most importantly, a rabies titer test administered no sooner than 30 days after the shot. Because the results must be processed at an approved laboratory and sent directly to Dominica's veterinary services, this process can take months of lead time. For the long-term resident, this isn't just a hurdle. It's the first test of island time and the necessity of planning your transition with a 6-month horizon. When considering a home in the Soufriere Valley, pay close attention to the drainage systems. The steep vertical peaks behind the village mean that during heavy tropical rain, water management is your most important security feature. Ensure your property has reinforced culverts and clear paths for mountain runoff to reach the sea without impacting your foundation. Home construction here should prioritize storm surge protection and wind-resistant roof pitches. Good news to add is that because the Marine Reserve is a visitor magnet attraction, there is a consistent demand for high-end boutique rentals. For a relocator looking to offset their costs and add some income, a property with a guest cottage can provide a stable added income stream from the diving and tourist community. The air is thick with the scent of the sea and the mineral warmth of the earth. It feels like a place where the planet is still being formed. Soufriere is an amazing local village that stays with you long after you leave its shores. Soufriere Scots Head Marine Reserve. Atlantic waves collide with the Caribbean Sea at the Soufriere Scots Head Marine Reserve, a submerged volcanic caldera at the island's southern tip. This marine-protected area occupies an extinct crater where the seafloor plummets into a deep lava chute just yards from the rocky shoreline. The geography is defined by a narrow isthmus known as the Great Divide, a natural land bridge that separates two distinct oceanic currents. The landscape transitions from vertical underwater cliffs to the rugged heights of the Scots Head Peninsula. Beneath the surface, geothermal vents release steady streams of gas, creating a localized phenomenon where you swim through millions of volcanic bubbles. The community here maintains a centuries-old artisanal fishing tradition, coexisting with a high-altitude lookout where soldiers once signaled across the channel to Martinique. You can hike the first segment of the Waitukubuli National Trail or kayak through the Caribbean's inaugural sea trail along the crater's edge. Because the reserve is managed by a local authority that prioritizes reef conservation over high-traffic development, the water clarity often exceeds 40 meters. The environment feels grounded and electric. It is a place where you can stand on a sliver of land and feel the heat of the earth beneath the cool of the tide. Soufriere Scots Head Marine Reserve is a place of incredible natural beauty that reminds you that the planet is a living, breathing entity. St. Joseph. Gray volcanic sands meet the mouth of the island's longest waterway in St. Joseph, one of Dominica's pristine coastal villages. St. Joseph is the maritime gate to the western leeward side of the island. Before colonial maps renamed it, the Kalinago called this area Uale, a nod to the winding path of the Layou River that defines the geography. The landscape is a flat alluvial delta, a rarity on this vertical island, flanked by steep volcanic cliffs. You see West Indian stone foundations topped with timber frames and jalousie shutters, a homegrown architectural response to the salt air and tropical heat. Life here moves with the river. You can navigate the deep freshwater pools by kayak or swim in the exceptionally calm Caribbean waters at nearby Marigot. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. When looking at homes in the leeward transition, beware the concrete trap. Concrete is excellent for hurricane resilience, but can become a heat and mold sponge without proper ventilation. Never sign a 12-month lease from abroad. Spend your first 30 days in a short-term rental to perform a mold and noise audit during a tropical downpour before committing long-term. Because the village remains a working community rather than a commercial center, the experience is grounded and sincere. It functioned as a primary trade hub for mountain produce back when the river was the only highway into the interior. St. Joseph represents a unique livability proposition. Because it occupies a rare alluvial delta, it offers more flat walkable terrain than much of the island's vertical interior. Additionally, the proximity to Merrow Beach provides a high-end community gathering spot for social integration, while the nearby Makucheri estate serves as a reminder of the island's fertile blue zone potential for those interested in small-scale organic agriculture or Garden of the Caribbean living. The air feels cooler here, where the mountain runoff meets the sea. It is a location that connects the wild, wet heart of the country to the salt-rimmed coast. St. Joseph bridges the gap between the rugged highlands and the tranquil shore. Castle Bruce. Castle Bruce is a village along the coast where the Atlantic salt spray hits a gorgeous, verdant valley. Long before colonial maps named it after a plantation engineer, the Kalinago called it Koanari, the place of the courier. Castle Bruce is the psychological safety anchor of the windward coast. The legacy of its worker-run cooperatives speaks to a culture of fierce independence and community resilience. For an expat, this translates to a welcome mat that respects self-sufficiency. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. Your long-term happiness depends on becoming a part of the community-centric mindset. In areas like Castle Bruce, integration is earned through participation, not just presence. While overpricing of items or rentals is rare in Dominica compared to other islands, showing interest in local agricultural cooperatives is the fastest way to move from being a tourist to a respected neighbor. However, potential relocators must perform a climate resilience review here. The Atlantic exposure requires thoughtful and unique engineering in home construction, prioritizing the traditional timber-framed Creole designs that have proven their durability against the heavy winds of the eastern coast for generations. The terrain is a dramatic collision of steep volcanic ridges and dark mineral sands. You see timber-framed Creole homes designed to withstand the heavy winds of the windward coast, grouped along the banks of the river that feeds the bay. This community gained global recognition in the 70s for establishing the country's first successful worker-run cooperative, a legacy of independence that defines the local character today. You can navigate the freshwater estuary by kayak or trek through the high-humidity forests that border the village. Many find themselves at elevated lookouts sampling local bush rums while observing the distinct rocky islets that break the Atlantic horizon. Because it functions as a working agricultural hub rather than a high-traffic resort zone, the experience remains raw and unscripted. The air is heavy with the sea and the scent of almond trees. It feels like a place that has decided its own future. Kalinago territory. Centuries of natural processes have carved the landscape of the Kalinago territory, a sizable communal district on the island's northeast coast. Originally called the Carib Reserve, the community officially reclaimed the name Kalinago, meaning a good peaceful man, to distance itself from colonial labels. The Kalinago territory is one of the most culturally significant and geographically unique regions in the Caribbean. For a relocator, it represents a profound choice to live within a sovereign indigenous space, but it comes with administrative and legal realities that are entirely different from the rest of the island. The most critical piece of knowledge for understanding this region is that the Kalinago territory is communal land. Unlike the rest of Dominica, land here is held in trust by the Kalinago Council. Non-Kalinago individuals cannot purchase land within the territory. While you can rent or potentially enter into long-term lease agreements for existing structures, you will never own the soil. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. If your relocation strategy relies on building equity or owning a permanent asset, the territory is a place to experience, not to invest. View a stay here as a long-term cultural immersion rather than a real estate play. For those looking for the Kalinago vibe with ownership rights, look at the areas immediately bordering the territory in the northeast. You are a guest in a space where the Kalinago Council is the governing body. Integration here requires more than just being friendly. It requires an active acknowledgement of the territory's unique status and customs. Before considering a long-term stay, seek an audience or a formal introduction with members of the community. Being part of the local area is earned by demonstrating that you aren't there to change or modernize the culture, but to learn from its resilience. The territory comprises 8 hamlets grouped along emerald ridges and steep seaside cliffs. Here, traditional ajupas with palm-thatched roofs stand alongside modern timber homes, a homegrown architectural style adapted to coastal humidity. The culture remains anchored in the land and sea. Living here means navigating the stairs of the Snake, a steep volcanic formation that the local respect as the path of an ancestral spirit. This region is considered the center of Dominica's herbal and traditional healing knowledge. For a relocator focused on longevity, access to the elders' knowledge of mountain medicine is an invaluable health asset. This is the Blue Zone soul in action. Natural, functional movement is built into the architecture of life. Because this is a self-governed territory rather than a resort district, the experience is direct and unvarnished. It is the last remaining indigenous territory in the Caribbean, where the pace is governed by the drying of laruma reeds for weaving and the baking of traditional cassava bread. There are no shopping malls or high-end gymnasiums. Your purpose here must be intrinsic within you: writing, gardening, or participating in community conservation projects. The Kalinago territory is a test of your comfort with solitude and nature. If you find peace in the sound of the Atlantic surf and the absence of urban noise, this is a sanctuary. If you require lots of amenities like high-end cafes, you may find the isolation overwhelming within the first month. You will notice immediately the air feels different here, electric and weathered. It is a place that prioritizes preserving a living legacy over the convenience of modern trends. The Kalinago territory provides a rare opportunity to witness a community that has never lost its connection to its origins. Morne Piton National Park. Deep in the south-central highlands, the clouds part to reveal Morne Piton National Park, a volcanic landscape so significant that it earned UNESCO World Heritage status. Often called the Mountain of Three Peaks, this park comprises 5 active volcanic centers. It acts as the island's natural battery, providing fresh water and geothermal energy to the communities below. The terrain transitions from deep green rainforests to the gray and gold of the Valley of Desolation. Here, the Earth's crust is thin enough to let boiling mud ponds and mineral-stained rivers dominate the scenery. Beside this volcanic amphitheater lies the Boiling Lake, a massive flooded fumarole and the second largest hot lake on the planet. This natural cauldron is suspended above the water table, heated by a constant rise of magmatic gas that keeps the water in a perpetual rolling boil. You can navigate the narrow black rock walls of T2 Gorge, or trek through high-altitude elfin woodlands where the air is noticeably cooler. Many find themselves at the edge of the boiling lake, observing the steam rise against the backdrop of the Atlantic in the distance. Because this is a protected wilderness with no human settlements, the experience remains raw and unscripted. The environment feels grounded and powerful. It is a place that reminds you of the Earth's unfinished state, where the water is warm and the mist is constant. Morne Trois Pitons provides a direct connection to the primal forces that shape the Caribbean. Here's an insider's tip for relocation success. The ultimate test of your relocation is once the novelty of the waterfalls fades. What is your purpose? Whether it's volunteering with a local reef restoration project or joining a hiking collective, you must identify your social anchor outside of your home. To avoid the isolation that often ends a Caribbean dream prematurely, in this corner of the world, the Earth remains the final authority. Dominica invites your curiosity and returns your wonder. Leave the paved path behind, immerse yourself in the mountain mist, and let the rivers lead you home to a place where nature still comes first. Dominica welcomes you.